I'm half-blooded American Indian and have always been very proud of that fact. My mother, if you saw her, you would not mistake the fact that she was Indian, and people knew I was Indian from, elementary school on because of my mother. But they talk about the conflict between white people in America and the Indians as if, white recently. We've talked about it all through my whole life, and they've always said that the white community who created the history books always said that the Indians were treated terribly. But what they understood and what people have forgotten was that no one knew anything else to do. And they could have put them on trains like they did in Nazi Germany and, killed them all, but they tried to at least let them live and let them have their community. But it's not true that the white people were any worse than the Indians themselves, who were very warlike and would, raid forts and steal women and, kill babies and hang them from trees, all sorts of, they're just as violent and horrible as any other group of people. And the white people came over here and there was plenty of land and they started establishing communities, but they were evolving at a much faster rate than the Indians and building cities and, aqueducts, and they had horses and guns, and they had just evolved so much further than these Indians. And they would set up schools and try to teach the Indians how to be a part of white society, but they didn't want to do that. They wanted to be in their own society, and then those societies clashed, and one was moving forward at a breakneck speed and one was trying to stay in the past and be, part of the land and not evolve. And so that created a unanswerable conflict. They couldn't live in proximity because their cultures were going in different directions and couldn't be one, which is the only way that a group of people can move together and not end up fighting with each other. That's what all the wars and everything across the globe are always from, is one group of people and another who see each other as the other and a threat. And white Indians were a threat to white people. They would attack them all the time. White people were a threat to Indians. White people are no better than Indians and no worse, so far as their violence, but they were much better at Indians at evolving, at creating things, at making cities and guns and wagons and laws that really evolved humanity, and they weren't going to stop that breakneck speed forward. And if the Indians didn't want to join, then they were in the way and they pushed them out of the way, and they felt terrible about it. And we Trail of Tears, that was all taught to all of us in school when old as I am, was a kid, and we were sad about it and we didn't like it, and no one knows what to do. And pointing fingers and calling people horrible is not helpful, but looking at the whole situation intellectually and trying to figure out what is best to do from this point with the things that we've learned over the last few hundred years with psychology and sociology, that is actually something good. But all this blaming is a waste of time and has more to do with how certain people feel about themselves than it really does anything that's going to help humanity.